welcome to episode 98 of the Dear Herbalist podcast titled Unlocking Recovery, the Herbalist Assessment Protocol for Alcoholism. If you are new here, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for your continued support. Now today we are going to talk about a protocol for alcoholism, how to do the assessment. Now let's look at some statistics. According to the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, the deaths from excessive alcohol are actually on the rise. Excessive alcohol use is a leading preventable cause of death in the United States, and approximately 178,000 people die each year from excessive drinking. These deaths stem from both long-term alcohol use and acute overconsumption. So what is alcoholism? Now, the etymology of alcoholism was coined by Magnus Huss in 1852, where alcoholism initially referred to alcohol poisoning. The definition of alcoholism, or alcohol use disorder, is an addiction to alcohol marked by compulsive behavior and mental health impacts. So as herbalists, you know, we hear a lot of terms, we hear a lot of diagnoses, buzzwords, all these other things, but we like to look at what? The root cause, exactly. The root cause of the issue. So before I get into that, you know what I'm about to say. Get your pens, your notepads, your papers, the back of a receipt, notebooks, your herbalist notebooks, herbalist business notebook. Get something to write some notes, because today I'm going to give you a lot of information. I was trying to figure out how to keep this short, but it just ain't going to happen. So stick with me, bear with me, and I'm going to give you a ton of great information. If you have a client that's dealing with alcoholism, if you're dealing with alcoholism yourself, or you may have somebody in your family that is dealing with alcoholism, this is how you can assess the situation and help them using natural remedies. So let's go back to the root causes. Number one, psychological factors. So that's depression, anxiety, low self-esteem. Two, environmental influences, stressful jobs, easy to alcohol access. Let's say your alcohol liquor store is like literally down the street from you, if not next door. Three, trauma. So any type of physical or sexual abuse. Number four, family history. So it could be environmental predispositions. You may have had an uncle, a father, whoever, mother, somebody around you, especially at a younger age, that was a heavy drinker. Number five, early exposure. So drinking at a young age. And a lot of people think it's cute, like, oh, my nephew or my niece or whoever, sipped a little bit of my wine or sipped a little bit of my beer at a young age. Be careful for that. That's not cute and it's not funny. Okay. Number six, socioeconomic factors. So poverty as a risk factor. And then number seven as a root cause, biological factors. So brain chemistry that could be altered by alcohol use, even if it's a small amount. So how should an herbalist approach a case like this? An herbalist approaching a case of alcoholism should take a holistic and cautious approach, considering both the potential benefits of herbal remedies, but also the complex nature of alcohol dependence. It's not just one thing, it's a multifaceted amount of things going on at the same time. So here is how I believe an herbalist might approach such a case. Now, really quickly, when I say cautious, is because of withdrawal symptoms, and we'll talk about that further down in the assessment. So let's go ahead and get into that. Now, when it comes to an assessment, there's two things that you want to identify. Number one, you want to identify the individual's overall health, their drinking patterns, and any underlying issues. And hopefully they trust you enough to tell you some of these certain things. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But either way, these are the things that you want to assess. That's number one. Number two, you want to identify the receptors and the biochemical pathways that are implicated in alcoholism and its underlying mechanisms. So you're like, what the heck is biochemical pathways? If you're new here, I'm going to define that for you. Biochemical pathways are a series of chemical reactions that occur in the body to transform substances into other forms. They help processes in our bodies like digestion, energy production, and cellular repair. Receptors are special proteins on the surface of the cells that allow the body to respond to these different substances like hormones, nutrients, or drugs. Now, why is this important for herbalists to understand? Understanding biochemical pathways and receptors helps us as herbalists know how herbs interact with the body, ensuring that we create a safe and effective remedy that support health. Now, locating biochemical pathways and receptors in alcoholism helps us to understand how alcohol affects the brain and our body. So by targeting these specific pathways, we can use herbs to support detoxification, reduce cravings, and balance neurotransmitter activity, which helps the client's recovery process. So when you know which biochemical pathway is a part of the process, as well as the receptors, and this could be for any issue, any health issue that you're dealing with, it's important to know those two things. This answers the question, how do I know if my herbal remedy is going to work? If you know those two, you have a high chance of knowing that. Now, of course, there's other factors, okay? But if you're looking at recommending herbal medicine, plants for anything, those are the two things that you need to understand in the human body, the biochemical pathways as well as the receptors involved in that dis-ease or disorder. So then you're like, well, how can I identify the biochemical pathways and receptors involved in alcoholism? Let me tell you. Number one, through research and education. So you want to study scientific literature on alcohol metabolism, the neurotransmitter systems, and addiction pathways. The other thing is that you want to learn about the pharmacological actions of herbs in relations to these systems. So you're going to have to do a little research. Number two, you want to understand the key pathways. So focus on the major neurotransmitter systems that are involved in alcoholism. Usually that's the dopaminergic pathway, which is crucial for reward and addiction. You want to know about the GABAergic pathway, GABAergic pathway. And with this pathway, alcohol enhances GABA activity, leading to relaxation and sedation. You want to know about the glutamatergic pathway, GLUTAMATERGIC pathway. And this is where alcohol inhibits the glutamate activity. You also want to learn about the serotonergic pathway, SEROTONERGIC pathway. And this is involved in mood regulation and affected by alcohol use. So these are some of the key pathways that you want to look at when you're doing your research. And these are the ones that you also want to understand, learn a little bit more about them because they are directly involved. These are the pathways that you're going to have to determine which herbs can have an action on these pathways, right? Then number three, look at enzyme systems. So study alcohol metabolism enzymes. There's one that's called alcohol ADH, alcohol dehydrogenase. Say that 15,000 times. And aldehyde dehydrogenase, ALDH2. These are key enzymes in ethanol metabolism. And then the other one is the cytochrome P450 2E1, and that's CYP2E1. And these are involved in ethanol detoxification. These are very important because it talks about how the alcohol is actually metabolized, how it's broken down in the body. And these enzymes are specifically responsible for that. Number four, and again, we are talking about how can you identify the biochemical pathways and receptors that are involved in alcoholism. This is what we're talking about. So number four, receptor knowledge. So you want to understand the specific receptors affected by alcohol. GABA A receptors, and this is primary targets for alcohol's effects. Then we have the NMDA receptors. These are inhibited by alcohol, affecting glutamate signaling. And then the dopamine receptors. These are involved in reward and addiction processes. So when we're talking about the use of pharmaceutical drugs, well, they often create medicines that reduce this effect. So when somebody drinks alcohol, they don't get the boost that they normally get. They don't get the feel good from it. It actually is the opposite of that. So some of those drugs that they prescribe for alcohol addiction and these type of things, it moves to get rid of the reward process when people drink. So that's another reason why receptors are important. Number five, symptom assessment. So this is another way that you can have an understanding on the biochemical pathways involved as well as receptors is observe the symptoms. So observe the physical, emotional, and behavioral symptoms that are indicative of specific neurotransmitter imbalances. So if there's depression there, you know there's a neurotransmitter involved in that, right? That is very important to understand that. And then two, if you have a physician that you happen to be friends with or know, or that subscribe to what it is that you do and believe, then you can always consult with them or even consult with researchers to kind of get further insight into the biochemical mechanisms that are involved. And then the last is herbal interactions. So you want to study how specific herbs interact with these pathways. So you want to study how which herb has an effect on how alcohol is actually metabolized in the body. So you want to study that. Those are the things and how you can further know and understand about the biochemical pathways and receptors are involved. This is how you can figure out which ones are involved, because you definitely need to figure that out. All right, so let's dive into this assessment protocol for alcoholism. Number one, you always want to get a medical history. Always. I tell people, especially herbalists, do not do the drive-bys. Hey, my cousin has this. What can I do for that? I need you to give me a little bit more information so that I can help you better. So you don't want to do the drive-bys. You don't want people to just drop a condition in your lap and then say, hey, figure it out. No, there are questions that you need to ask. So when it comes to alcoholism, you want to document any type of chronic conditions, hypertension, diabetes, liver disease, that type of thing. The other thing is you also want to note any type of allergies or sensitivities to herbs or medications. This is very important. Number two, now this is all a part of, if you want to write at the top of your paper, general health evaluation. What I'm giving you now is a part of that category. So under general health evaluation, number one is medical history. Now number two is family history. So you want to look at who in the family was drinking like that. Okay. Number three is any current symptoms that they may be experiencing. So any physical or even emotional symptoms such as fatigue, digestive discomfort, insomnia, anxiety. You want to record all of these down, because remember, as herbalists, you want to make sure that you get a well-rounded idea of what's going on with the client. And it's not just looking at the dis-ease or disorder per se. You really have to look at the total part of it, the whole person, spirit, soul, and body. All of that matters. Now, category number two is alcohol use assessment. So you want to look at, number one, their drinking patterns. How much, how often, what type. That's important. What time of day is the alcohol typically consumed? That's very important. Number two, you want to look at dependency indicators. So you want to evaluate any psychological and physical reliance on alcohol. And that you can do that just by asking them questions. Just have a conversation with them. Well, why do you drink? Well, what's going on? Right? Note any withdrawal symptoms that they may have experienced when they have abstained. So if they've said, oh, hey, I've abstained from alcohol, I've done it before for a month or two, or I've done it for a week or two, I've done it for 6 months, whatever the case may be. Okay, well, what did you experience during that time when you did stop consuming alcohol? Write that down. And then number three, any type of triggers or context. So identify any situations, emotions, or environments that prompt drinking. So is this around a certain time of the year? Is it being around a certain person? Whatever it is. Is it, a smell? Is it a sound? Is it something somebody says? Identify the triggers. And for those that may think like, okay, this is doing the most, I don't have to do all that. Okay. Well, you may not feel that way, but if you want to have a well-rounded protocol and you want to be able to help people genuinely, then you want to get as much information as possible. These cases, especially when it comes to alcohol clients, you have to be very, very careful with them because of the withdrawal symptoms. And so you have to make sure that you know everything that you can possibly know about this issue they're dealing with and other surrounding issues that impact their want to drink. All right. So this is all a part of that. Now, the next section is the biochemical and physiological evaluation. And we talked about what the biochemical pathways, we talked about that. And physiological is basically physiology, how the body works. So under the biochemical and physiological evaluation section, okay, number one, you want to look at the receptors and the pathways involved. So determine which neurotransmitter systems, the GABA, the dopamine, the glutamate, and the biochemical pathways are involved in the addiction. You need to know that. Number two, liver function. You need to know that. Look for signs of liver stress, such as jaundice, abdominal pain, discoloration of the whites of the eyes. Okay. If they have gone to the doctor before, let's say they've gotten a test and they said they had elevated liver enzymes, or even if they haven't gone to get that test done, say, hey, you got insurance? Go ahead on and get that test done. Let the insurance pay for it. Okay. But at any rate, you want to look at the liver function. That is very important. Number three, digestive health. So how is their gut health? Do they have bloating? Do they have constipation? Do they have a poor appetite? Do they have a lot of gas? These type of things. What are they eating? That's important as well. And then number four, detoxification capacity. You want to evaluate how efficient are their detoxification pathways. So how is their liver doing as far as detoxifying, and their kidneys and their lymphatic system? Are they clogged? These type of things you want to evaluate as well. Well, I'm going to give you some Gemmotherapy recommendations that you could look at using for your clients that are dealing with this issue. Number one is Ribes nigrum, which is black currant bud. It supports adrenal function and it reduces inflammation. Then Juniperus communis, which is juniper bud. It detoxifies the liver and the kidneys. And the Ficus carica, which is the fig bud. It supports digestive health and reduces emotional tension. Gemmotherapy is plant bud therapy. Okay, it's almost like your plant stem cells. That it's a liquid form. You can put a couple drops in some water and drink it. And you can mix and match the different gemmos, as they call them, to overall support health. So I'm going to be giving you some Gemmotherapy recommendations throughout this protocol. Next section is their nutritional status. This is very, very important, because if they have any type of deficiencies anywhere, they're not able to support the liver like they need to, so that it can do what it needs to do, right? So number one, you want to look at deficiencies. And again, this is under the nutritional status section. Deficiencies. Identify potential deficiencies caused by the alcohol, such as B vitamins, magnesium, zinc, or vitamin D. Number two, dietary habits. Assess food quality, meal timing, and nutritional balance. So are they just eating junk, processed foods, sugar, a whole lot of coffee? Are they eating out a lot, not really preparing meals at home? These are the things that you want to note for them. Now, the Gemmotherapy recommendations for this would be Rose canina, which is rose hip bud. This gemmo is rich in vitamin C, and it helps support recovery and immune health. And then the lingonberry bud, it improves nutrient absorption and it supports gut health. Now for the section emotional and mental well-being. Number one, you want to take a mental health history, because you want to screen for anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, or other mental health issues. Now, am I asking you to become a psychotherapist, a therapist, or operate outside of your scope of understanding or even knowledge? No. But I am asking you to ask some questions. Again, all this is about asking questions. I'm not asking you to get into a full therapeutic session and all that kind of stuff. No, but you do need to answer these questions, because your mental health affects your physical health. So that has to be a part of your assessment. So the next point, number two, stress levels. Evaluate the sources and the intensity of stress, because a lot of this is usually triggered by stress. Where is it coming from? Is it a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one? Is it a lack of money? Where is the stress coming from? So you want to identify that. Number three, coping mechanisms. So what are some other coping strategies, like exercise, social support, learning a new hobby, these type of things that they're doing? Or are they doing anything at all? Do they have any other type of coping mechanism? Maybe not. Write that down. And then four, which is probably one of the most important things, is especially when you're talking about adherence to a protocol, is the readiness for change. Are they sick and tired of being sick and tired? You want to gauge their motivation and willingness to reduce or quit alcohol use. If they are not ready, they are just not ready. What you can do is leave the information at their feet, put all the information out there, what they can do to address it. And as the scriptures say, shake the dust off your feet and keep it moving. Because you can't force people to do things. So if they are truly ready, they're motivated, they're listening, then they'll be actively involved in their healing process. But if not, and it's something that you're forcing on them, they may do it for a while, then hop off the bandwagon, or they may start a little bit, go far, you see changes, like, all right, cool. And then here comes that trigger and they jump right back into the water. So you got to kind of be careful for that. But you want to still, what is their motivation? Gauge that. And what is their willingness to reduce or even quit alcohol use? So gauge that. So for this section, let me give you some Gemmotherapy recommendations. Number 1 is Tila tomentosa, which is linden bud. This calms anxiety and promotes relaxation. And then the horse chestnut bud supports emotional resilience and circulation. So you want to look into those too. Now, the next section is their lifestyle and environmental factors. So the next section of your assessment is lifestyle and environmental factors. Number 1, physical activity. So assess exercise routines or even any type of sedentary behavior, right? So let's just say they're kind of sitting down, not doing much. Or, yes, I work out 1 or 2 times a week at the gym, or I work out at home, whatever the case may be. But assess their physical activity. Number 2, sleep patterns. Note sleep quality. How long do they sleep? Do they have any type of disturbances? Why is this important? Because we understand that during the sleep process is when a lot of the healing and repairing and restoring takes place. So if they're not getting any sleep, right, and they're drinking heavily, damaging their liver, the body doesn't have the time it needs to really repair the liver because it's focusing its energies on keeping you awake and helping you process the information that you're seeing through your eyes, sensing through your body and all that. The body is using its energy for that rather than, okay, she's asleep now or he's asleep now, so I need to focus on the areas within the body. I can go inward now and start working on the issues that are going on within the body and repair and restore those. So sleep patterns are very important to know. Number 3, support system. Do they have relationships, social networks, or any type of available support from family, friends, or do they have a therapist? Any of these things, you want to note these things because having a support system, a very supportive support system during this process is going to be very important. Now, if their support system also happens to be alcoholics or heavy drinkers and all that, then it's kind of like, you might need to work on finding a different support system, especially if you're trying to quit. You don't need the peer pressure. And then number 4 is environmental triggers. So they identify any external stressors such as work pressures or even household dynamics. Now, some recommendations as far as Gemmotherapy for this area is beech bud, which reduces tension and supports restful sleep, and oak bud, which boosts energy levels and resilience. Next section is co-occurring conditions and medication review. So are there any coexisting conditions? So is there any hypertension, diabetes, chronic pain, kidney issues, autoimmune diseases? You want to ask them about this, screen for any of these type of conditions. That's number 1. Number 2 is medications. You want to document all medications, over-the-counter drugs, any other herbal supplements, because you want to avoid herb-drug interactions. And this is the reason why I say move with caution really with any protocol that you do, because there are clients that will not fully disclose what it is that they are taking. So if you're recommending any herbs, you want to try to get the ones that have the least bit of chance, if possible, of interacting with any other type of drug. Or what you can do is, let's say your client says, well, I have diabetes and I have something else. Right? Go get the Merrick manual. It's the manual, that big thick book that the doctors use, and it has those diseases listed out, and it has the typical prescriptions that they prescribe to their clients who are dealing with these issues. They may not prescribe all of them, but it may just be a few of them. But what I would do as an herbalist, especially making protocols for somebody, I would say, okay, this is kind of what they've been diagnosed with. Now, whether they're following it or not is, whatever. But because I know that this is what the diagnosis is, I'm going to go look in the Merrick manual and see, what I'm saying? Like, okay, diabetes, typically there's these drugs that are prescribed. Now I know what type of herbs that I can recommend and see if they interact negatively with those type of prescriptions. All right. So that's just a little tip of what I would do. Next section is hormonal and genetic considerations. So number 1, hormonal imbalances. So you want to assess for any type of signs of hormonal dysregulation, such as fatigue, weight changes, or mood swings. Number 2, as far as genetic factors, you want to note any genetic tendencies toward addictive behaviors or slow or rapid alcohol metabolism. Now, hazelbud, which is a gemmotherapy recommendation I'm about to give you, supports hormone regulation and detox pathways. The next section is your risk and safety consideration. This is a big section. Number 1, you want to assess their withdrawal risk. So assess the severity of addiction and the likelihood of withdrawal symptoms. You also want to determine if medical supervision is required during detoxification. This is very important because there are some severe withdrawal symptoms that could happen that may require medical attention. So let's go through some of these withdrawal symptoms and when they need to seek medical help. Now, common withdrawal symptoms when it comes to alcoholism is anxiety, restlessness, nausea, vomiting, insomnia or disruptive sleep, sweating, tremors, increased heart rate, or high blood pressure. These are some of the common withdrawal symptoms for people that stop drinking alcohol, that have been drinking it for a while. Now, severe symptoms, these are when medical attention are required. Hallucinations, seizures, or they have something called DT, which is delirium tremens, which is confusion, fever, and agitation. This is where medical attention is required. This is where it goes beyond what you can do as an herbalist, and it's something that you can explain to them as well as their family or any type of support system that they have around them. If they start experiencing these type of things, it's time to get them moving to the doctor because they need to be strictly evaluated, right, under medical care so that they can do all of those very detailed little tests unless you have a setup in your house, which most herbalists don't. But they just need to go seek medical attention in the emergency room. Now, so for herbalists, when dealing with withdrawal symptoms, any type of mild symptoms, you can use herbal and nutritional support, which can help, but you still need to closely monitor. That's very important because it could easily slip over into the severe symptoms. And if there, like I said before, if there are any severe symptoms, refer them to medical professionals immediately because withdrawal can be life-threatening if they don't have the proper care that is needed. We have to be wise. I know some people are so anti going to the doctor or going to the emergency room, but at the end of the day, if somebody chopped your leg off, you're probably going to want to go somewhere where they can wrap you up real quick. Okay, I'm just going to say that. Doesn't mean it's always effective. It doesn't mean that, it's the better route. But at the end of the day, as an herbalist, we're preventative, we're supportive, that type of thing. But emergency medicine, I believe there is a place in this world for emergency medicine. Okay. Not saying that what they're prescribing all the time is great. Not saying that at all. But like I said, you get your leg chopped off, you're going to want to have somebody that can address that quickly. Okay. So severe symptoms from alcoholism, hallucinations, seizures, and delirium type stuff where withdrawals can be life-threatening, that is the equivalent of somebody getting their leg chopped off. So they definitely need to seek medical attention. Okay. And then number 2 up under the category of risk and safety considerations is adverse reactions. So let's say they do have mild symptoms, but they don't have any severe symptoms, but you are recommending certain herbs or certain herbal protocols. there may be adverse reactions. So you want to identify any risks related to herbal interventions, especially for individuals with pre-existing conditions or medications. So you want to identify all potential risks. Like I said before, look up in that manual and see. They said they're not on anything, cool, but go look in that manual and see what's typically prescribed for people with this condition. And, it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay. But continue to think about all the possible risk. Okay. If they take this particular one, is it going to speed their heart rate up too fast? If, all these things, you want to take all of that into consideration. And then the next section is, and this is actually the final section, is recommendations and next steps. So number one, a personalized plan. All the information that you have gathered, you want to use all the information that you have gathered to create a tailored herbal, dietary, and lifestyle plan. All of those things have to come into play when it comes to your herbal protocol creation. Number two, referral. These are all the next steps. So if there are severe withdrawal symptoms, liver failure, or any type of co-occurring conditions that require specialized care, or there's some severe situation that has happened, refer them to a medical professional. Okay. And then number three, follow-up plan. Well, let me go back to this referral thing really quick too. Because I was watching something really quickly, and I believe it was in Jamaica. And I thought it was cool how this particular herbalist had a relationship with this other doctor, and how they worked together with, using their individual knowledge and understanding to help this client. And it really blew me away. I was sitting there like, now, why can't we do that over here? Over here, meaning the United States. It's like, because we both have specialized knowledge, why can't we use that for the betterment of society? I don't understand that, because there are going to be times where there's something that goes beyond what we can do and we have to refer. So within the herbalist community, yes, refer to the other herbalists, but then also be able to refer to the medical community, understand that the patient is going to be taken care of, right? Or in our words, we don't use patient, we use client, will be taken care of. So I just thought that was interesting, just interesting to me. But anyway, let me hop off my soapbox. Number three, the follow-up plan. So you want to schedule regular check-ins to monitor the client's progress, adjust the protocol as needed. Maybe you've given them too high of a dose of something, or it seems like things are working, so you may want to taper them down a little bit, the dosage and that type of stuff. And you also want to provide emotional support, because they are going to need it. This is something that is bigger than them, and they're going to need that support along the way. They're going to need to be able to call you, need to be able to talk to you. They're going to need that attaboy, They're just going to need that extra support. In conclusion, a comprehensive herbalist assessment protocol for alcoholism involves a holistic approach, addressing various aspects of the individual's health, their lifestyle, and underlying factors contributing to alcohol dependency. Now, by using this protocol, herbalists can develop personalized protocols that support recovery and overall well-being. So I'm going to leave you with some final tips. Number one, always prioritize your client's safety and collaborate with medical professionals when it's necessary. Okay? Their safety is always first. Don't let your ego get involved. If you can't handle it, and you've spoken to some other herbalists and that other kind of thing, don't let your ego get in the way. At the end of the day, you don't want to do any type of harm. You want to help them. So that's number one. Number two, regularly update your knowledge on alcohol addiction research and herbal interventions. And you want to look at not only research that's been done in the United States, but also research that has been done outside of the United States, I should say, and specifically when it comes to herbal interventions, because there's tons of research, especially in India, tons of research out there on herbal medicine interventions with a variety of different disorders and their effectiveness. So check out PubMed for those, as well as any other type of research search engines. Number three, continue learning about alcohol metabolism as well as neurotransmitter systems. 4, collaborate with healthcare professionals for any type of complex cases. So if you have a friend in the medical community, that's even better. Especially because a lot of people, well, why would we want to do that? They spend a lot of time studying about the human body, and especially if they're specialized in that area. So if they're a neuroscientist, you know that they spend a lot of time in that particular area. And let's say you don't want to talk to the medical community. Let's say you just want to talk to the researchers. Talk to them, because they spend a lot of time zeroing in on one particular area. So you would hope that they would know all the insides and the outs. Now, the reality of it is, when it comes to the human body, scientists are still discovering more things about it, but they are at least doing the research. What I'm finding, which is why I'm trying to bridge the gap, in herbal medicine, it's not enough conversation or even study around the human body and what it can do. There's a lot of focus on the herbs and what they can do and their actions and how they act on the body, but it's not enough about what the body's mechanisms are already. And this is why collaboration is important, because we spend a lot of time studying the herbs and the plants and that type of thing, and they spend a lot of time studying the human body, right? So what I'm trying to do as the demystified herbalist is merge those two together, so that the herbalist can be more well-rounded in their protocol recommendations, creations, and everything else. Okay. Number 5, emphasize safety again and gradual progress. It's not going to happen overnight. Gradual progress, I should say, is very important. Number 6, maintain open communication with clients and adjust their protocol as needed. Again, maintain open communication and adjust their protocol as needed. Make them feel like they are a part, because they are. They're a huge part of it. We are the facilitators of the healing process. A facilitator is not someone that takes it over. They don't do it for you. They just facilitate. So if we stand in our role and not try to overbear on people and allow them to be a part of their own process of healing, it'll be much better for them. And number 7, emphasize the importance of addressing root causes alongside symptom management. Because the reality of it is, if you do not address the root issue, then it's going to happen again and again and again. The person's going to drink again and again and again. Their triggers are going to happen and they're going to want to go grab a bottle or whatever. So we have to look at the root at all costs and continue helping them to work towards addressing those root issues. And let's be real. A lot of men out there, they're not going to want to go to therapy. They're not going to barely even want to go to the doctor, but you have to try to support them to get to those processes so that they can be 100% healed, because it is a journey, right? That involves multiple processes to get to the end. So I hope that this herbal protocol will help you. I tried to be as specific as I could with the time that I have, but I wanted to make sure that you had the information that you need in order to be able to create an effective protocol and make the assessments necessary in order to be able to help you, your loved ones, or your clients that are dealing with alcoholism. And with that, family, if you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media sites at The Demystified Herbalist. Head over to my store at thedemystifiedherbalist.square.site to get any type of herbal literature, herbal products, especially during this holiday season. Give the gift of wellness. And if you have any questions, always reach out to me at thedemystifiedherbalist@gmail.com. And until next time, family, I'm out.